Hey everyone, Rob from Southgate Media Group here. Before we get started with this podcast, we have a quick message. If this is your first time checking out the show, we love that you found us and we really hope you enjoy it. What we have to say is for the subscribers. If you enjoy our shows, would you please donate to help keep these going? We don't want to have to put traditional ads on these shows, but this does cost money. So we really do rely heavily on donations. To make a donation to the show, please go to our website, www.southgatemediagroup.com. Go to the page for the show, and in the upper right-hand corner is a donate button. It takes you right to PayPal, and you can donate whatever amount you want. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody. And now on with the show.
This is Jeff Marsick, and if you can hear my voice, that means you have downloaded another episode of Biters. And with me, as always, is Kirk Manley. Kirk, say hi to everybody.
What's up?
And
it's that time again.
It is that time again for Season 5, Episode 11, called The Distance. Before we get into it, we'll do what we always do, which is talk about the numbers. And this week, the Walking Dead was up against the Oscars as their big competitor, which I saw was a 6-year low for the Oscars, even though they pulled in 36.5 million viewers. But I watched it. I was unimpressed, and I didn't agree with the Best Picture winner. But that's just me. Walking Dead actually picked up a little bit from last week's 12.6 million viewers, and they had actually just shy of 13.5 million viewers. So it was probably that Saturday Night Live 40th from last week had a big impact. But there you go.
So the total was 13 million?
13.44 if you want to go out to the hundredths place, yes.
And I never go out to the hundredths place. I'm more in the change, 25 cents, 50 cents. And what was last week against
the Saturday Night Live 40th was 12.6.
So it actually did better.
Yeah, it was a little bit higher.
Excellent.
But it's a little bit higher in the live. How many people were watching the Saturday Night Live? And then I couldn't find the numbers for the delayed. We talked last week about how I think that the age bracket was more competitive with Saturday Night Live than it was with the Oscars. But I don't know. It's just a theory. But yeah, I agree that they were pretty boring. The Oscars. I didn't watch them, but they were on in the house, and most people watching them here were yawn. So I thought the funniest thing about the Best Picture winner was all night, I was reading in a lot of the post write-ups and stuff, they were bashing superhero movies. Mm-hmm. They were people were making snide comments about, superhero movies and kind of implying that they're, so hollow and it's blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, the Academy Award Best Picture goes to a movie about a guy who played a superhero. Yeah.
I thought that was a little bit of an irony. Granted, it wasn't a superhero movie, but it's still I just want to know how they won, because my wife and I have yet to find somebody who actually liked that movie. Everybody that we've seen, I have not seen it. But everybody who's seen it, I want to see it. I want to see it. I like Keaton, and I expect it'll be a good drama, but.
Well, not to get too far off the beaten path, but if anybody who's listening, if you haven't seen Whiplash, that movie was phenomenal. J.K. Simmons totally deserved the Oscar that he won.
That's on the top of our list. Can't wait to see that. I'm really looking forward to it. Hey, I wanted to send a thank you out to Christina, listener, a Biters listener. Her Twitter handle is @SpecialK7728, which I happen to have a special affinity for Special K. That was what I was called in college. So I like that name, Christina. That's cool. But anyway, she did a very nice thing and wrote a nice iTunes review for us and let us know that she had done that, and that helps out a whole lot. We probably should mention it more often, but the more reviews we get, the higher up we move up in the iTunes, resource there, and are more easily found by people. So that helps the show, stay alive and keep going. So
yeah, and we need that with Southgate Media having 50 shows now.
Right.
The Southgate Media Group has 50 podcasts covering TV shows.
Did you check out their new video promo?
Yeah,
they put it on. They put it up on our Facebook page and stuff. I thought it was really, really, really well done. It was cool. It was kind of like a night, like a '60s movie preview kind of.
Maybe think of the Mad Men opening.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, that was cool. So yeah, they're just blossoming. Let's see. The other Biters listener I wanted to send a shout out to and a thank you was Thomas, who goes by the handle at Celtic So. He's been a regular listener. He earlier today tweeted about some information about the season finale that was kind of cutting edge and got things flying on Twitter, and now it's been confirmed in a bunch of places. And I think Jeff just said he posted it up on Facebook for us. But looks like the season 5 finale will be 90 minutes. Now, have they done that before?
I was trying to think.
I don't think so.
I think there was one that was like, I don't know if they've done a 90-minute one.
An hour and 15, there may have been a premiere. Was the premiere 90 minutes? No. I don't know. I have to look back on that. But that's kind of interesting. I wonder why. Show any speculation as to why they would feel the need to extend that?
There must be a lot of stuff going down in that episode.
Well, of course, a lot of people are theorizing that that's because they're going to introduce Negan, but I don't think so. I think it's still too early for Negan. My theory is that we're gonna get that part in the books where the Horde breaks through the fence, and then of course now again this might be spoilers for anybody who doesn't read the comic. So if you don't want to be spoiled from the comic, then you might want to jump ahead. But the Horde breaks through, and then of course you get Carl gets shot in the eye.
Oh, right.
And I could see them having that be the cliffhanger ending, not knowing whether he died or not.
Right.
Because, man, when I read that book, I saw that hat, you were like, there's no way he's surviving
exactly.
that. You know what I mean? So I could see that being the big cliffhanger ending. Because they still have to introduce all the other communities before you get any Negan, right?
Yes.
Right. So I see Negan mid-season finale next season, season 6.
And I'm gonna agree with you about the whole Horde breaking through thing, just because the way when Aaron introduces it or mentions it in this episode, and he pulls a picture out and he goes, "Those are 12 foot by 12 foot.
Yes.
Nothing living or dead is going to come through." You don't throw that out there in a show like this.
That's right.
That's dangling raw meat in front of a saber-toothed tiger, and
serious foreshadowing there.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I totally agree with you on that. Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. I hadn't thought of that until you just mentioned it. So yeah, no, it's a good point. Yeah, and I think what it'll too, they've spent this whole part of the season really showing you, how rough it is out in the world and how ragged they had to become, and they were like the Walking Dead, and how feral, Rick and his beard and everything else,
Right.
and the whole issue of we'll get into with this episode of him, being not sure he can let go of that way of being and get back to being a human being. And so I think we'll get a whole bunch of getting calm, getting acclimated, becoming more relaxed and comfortable in this new world, and then having the reality of that world come crashing through again, and Rick having to step back up to the way he was, and that that'll be how that'll end.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But who knows? If listeners, you got any theories on why you think they need 90 minutes, post them up, and we'll read them. All right. So then, what do we got? Tweets of the week.
Yep.
Wasn't that? Let's see. We got a new intro for that. Hopefully. So let's hear the new tweets of the week intro. Boom. Okay, hopefully that just played.
I made a note of where it should go. So
this is what we get for not editing our own show. All right, let's see. At Action Chick tweeted up, no matter what, the food in Alexandria is going to be way better than it was in Terminus. Thought that was pretty good. At Renee Nene 652003, maybe they have razors and scissors there. I say go. Rick doesn't need a shave. I'm growing a beard in honor of Rick, so I guess when he cuts it, I'll have to cut mine. At CastleFan83, oh crap! Does this mean Glenn is the new moral compass of the show? I'll be sad to see you go, man. At Mocking Dead, little does Aaron know, every civilization Rick's crew has ever crossed ended up burnt to the ground. So true. So true. Be careful what you wish for. At Justin Thomas 97, my mom thought Noah had been killed off already. What's that guy doing in the RV? I thought he was dead. At Comic Maven, so glad J. Jonah Jameson won an Oscar. I had to throw that in. And then there was one other Oscar one that was good. Watching The Walking, let's see, this was My Vogan Poetry. Watching The Walking Dead versus the Oscars. Ironically, both feature awkward speeches and lots of makeup. That was cute. So that's tweets of the week. All right. So let's go back. Let's get into it.
The good, and ugly.
What was your good? What'd you like about it?
Well, first of all, what do you think about the title, The Distance? Just got that look on his face like, I got nothing. Well, I think it was kind of straightforward. It's like a title fight that,
now you think it's straightforward. Oh, and I got nothing. You got it's straightforward. If I do have something, you wax metaphysical about.
Metaphorical, they've been out enduring the gauntlets that they've been going through this whole season, and now they're coming up to the end of the fight essentially, and so it's the idea of a fighter going the distance. I kind of thought. Plus, they've got this one little last jaunt of the drive that they got to make, and of course, there's some amazing car footage in this episode. So, overall, it seemed like the episode was mostly about trust and not letting hope get lost in the struggle to survive. So I'm not sure that that ties into it, but definitely kind of being at the end of the fight. It's kind of how I interpreted that.
Okay.
4.25 noggin shots for me.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. What about you?
I'm going to go with a 3.
Boom! What's that about?
It didn't. Well, we'll talk about it. It didn't.
Didn't work for you.
No.
Okay. You want me to go first on the good?
Yeah. Let's talk about the good.
I love the callback to Glenn and Dale on the RV. That was awesome. I thought the introduction of Aaron was really good. I like the actor. I think he's doing a great job in his portrayal. I thought it was really well done. I think that it's maybe my favorite intro of a new character yet. I liked his sincerity. He just seemed smart. I don't know. I just thought that it was all handled really well with his intro to the group. I like that the declaration that the most important recess now, is people. And that was cool. They did that, they talked about that in the book as well. And, I think that these people have kind of forgotten that because everybody they've ever run into has been a monster. So, but it's true. If you want to get things back on track, you're going to need people to do it. I also, a lot of people complained about how they didn't like the whole resistance to the applesauce thing that Aaron had. And, and I agree. It didn't feel right. I mean, you've come all this way. You've gone through all this. He's offering you this applesauce because he doesn't trust you. It's just applesauce. And if there's nothing wrong with it, there should be no reason to not take it. So it doesn't taste good. So you don't like the way it tastes. Big deal, you know? So I agree with that, and people have complained about it. But at the same time, from a story point of view, from a show point of view, they needed to keep you wondering, just one little bit of doubt in the back of your mind. Maybe this guy's not a good guy. Maybe this is still a trap. And partly that's because they want to mess with us as a viewer, but also they want you to somewhat not side with, but identify, I think, with Rick, because Rick's struggling with trust in this guy, And so I liked that. I liked that they were playing around with that. They did it again in the car too, when Michonne, questions why there's no people in the shots, and I think that was another, and he kind of stumbles on his answer, and then she starts asking him the questions, but I'll get more into that. Let's see. I love that they brought the 3 questions back too, by the way. Thought that was good.
Well, right from the jump, it's funny that when they got into the car where Michonne asked the questions, or she was like, did we ask the questions? And Rick was kind of like, oh crap, I forgot. And yet it was like something that was so ingrained in him, from the start. I thought it was odd that he would have forgotten. In fact, earlier, right before he goes and punches Aaron out, I was expecting him to walk up and ask 3 questions there.
Well, I think it was because I didn't have that reaction to it, because Aaron was not, soliciting them to join their group. He was soliciting them to come join his group.
Right.
And I think that kind of threw the whole mix off. It threw Rick off. It threw all of them off, because they're not used to that. Everything that's been an invite like this has been a horrible trap. So, Rick right off the bat was convinced this guy was bad news. He didn't need to ask him any questions. He wasn't considering bringing him in. He was trying to decide whether he'd go with him or not. So I kind of could understand how that would get lost in the shuffle, But I thought it was good. I thought from Michonne's point of view, it was good because she was the one that was being so accepting of him and saying, this is a good possibility. This reads good. I this sounds good. I think we should trust this. But yet when all of a sudden she saw something bad, all of a sudden it was like, okay, wait a minute. I got to make sure I'm not falling, mistakenly for this trap, So I thought that was cool. I liked that. Rick says a couple of great lines in this episode. Just because we're good people doesn't mean we won't kill you.
Right.
That was a classic. He was really Rick was, and I kind of liked this, but Rick was kind of the bad guy in this episode, he essentially ends up jeopardizing all of them because he's not trusting Aaron. He leads them right into the big zombie mess as a result and everything else. So, they were kind of making him the bad guy. But there was a website, Movie Pilot. I don't know if you've ever gone there or not, but I went there today or yesterday, and they had a couple of interesting points in an article they wrote about it. And, I thought that the whole thing with the punch, that's been analyzed a lot online. I saw people thought it was out of line for him to punch Aaron. They didn't understand where that came from. And, I thought this was an interesting idea that they posted up. Aaron says, this is Aaron's speech just before he gets punched. Like I said, security is obviously important. In fact, there's only one resource more critical to our community's survival: the people. Together we're strong. You can make us even stronger. So, in general, that sounds pretty cool, right? And in any other group, it might, have sealed the deal, except for the fact that this particular group, they said, had already heard a similar line back in Terminus in season 4. In the finale, Michonne asked the termite Alex, "Why do you do it? Why do you let people in?" And Alex replied, we when people become a part of us, we get stronger. Of course, soon after, we realized that meant quite literally.
Right.
So it's, right after that line that he walks over and just punches him. And so, yeah, it's, I don't think it's reading into it, but I think it's incredibly subtle. It probably got lost by a lot of people, but it probably was, they were probably thinking that would be a trigger for him. Anyway, so I thought that was a pretty cool point. Anyway, I love the flare and the zombie eye. That was freaking awesome. I love the gauntlet of zombies that they barrel through. that was very reminiscent of a sequence in the book that I was concerned they were going to pass up because it was such a great sequence. There was a sequence in the book when him, Carl, and Abraham are on the road, and they encounter the first herd that we see in the comics. And they're at that gas station or whatever, and they have like a big, huge old Eldorado, and they go flying through that herd, and all sorts of hell ensues. And they did a sequence where they go to the veterinarian clinic on a TV show. They make a run to try and get the medicine for people with the virus.
Yep.
And they had a similar scenario, and I thought, oh, that's how they're going to be doing it. But they came back and really did it much more like it was in the comic, and I thought that was cool. Different people, different context, but it was still cool. And also the way that scene was done, that was so cool because it went from 0 to 100 in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
I mean, you're inside that car. They're talking. It's casual. They're lighthearted. They seem to be kind of pleasant. Everything's going pretty cool. They're talking to Aaron still, and then all of a sudden she asks him that question. She's talking about the pictures, and then she asks him about the people missing, and all of a sudden there's this tension, and then he stumbles on that, and then she's like, "Did you ask him the questions?" And like the tension starts to rise, and she started asking him the questions, and then Rick finds the listening device. Right. And it just and then boom, they start hitting zombies. And it just went from 0 to 100 in a heartbeat. And that was so cool, I thought. I like that Rick hides the pistol.
Yeah, because that's another thing that you just know that we're gonna end up coming back to.
Absolutely. And it was a smart idea. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen. He did the same thing at Terminus, and it paid off 100% for him,
Right.
What did you think about the J that scratched into that pistol?
That's a good question. I don't know. That one kind of confused me. What's your theory on it?
I have to assume it's for Judith.
Oh.
And I'm wondering if, one thought I had is, Judith may end up growing up.
Well, we had
that in this story, as opposed to in the book she dies as a baby, but
yeah.
And I wonder if that'll end up being her gun.
Huh.
I don't know. It's just weird that it would have a J on it. It's the only J I can think of.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Because we haven't had any other J character, have we?
Not that I can think of. Not that would have had a gun. I don't know what that is, but that was loud. That final shot of Rick's eyes, I thought that was really cool because it was a great mirror image of Maggie's eyes at the opening of last week's episode. Last week's episode opens up with a close-up shot of her eyes, and she's teared, full of tears. The eyes are pretty much closed. She's crying. I think that shot totally indicated, a loss of hope and depression and everything else. And in contrast, the close up on his eyes, they become wide when he hears the sounds. And for the first time filled with a little bit of relief and maybe some hope. It was I thought it was a nice way to juxtapose those two emotional states. Glad to get a gay couple kiss on the show for the first time. I thought that was pretty cool. Love the line from Carol at the end. Even though you were wrong, you were right.
Yeah.
Classic Carol.
Yep.
Carol's like, I got your back.
Yep.
I know the real deal. Yeah, and my ugly is has a lot to do with Rick and Michonne, so I won't go into much there. But I liked when he was talking about whether to bring his family into this new compound. And it was interesting because he doesn't clarify it, but for me, I read that as the entire group is his family now.
Okay.
I didn't see it as just Carl and Judith. I thought I got a laugh out of the fact that, they're in the RV and everybody's happy and playing cards and they're looking at the DC skyline and Abraham's like, we can make it. And if they're looking at the fuel gauge and then they cut and they're broken down.
That was almost comical that we can make it.
we can make it. And then as soon we can't make it.
And then it was hilarious. His follow-up line, he was so pissed. He's like, useless. Might as well paint it red and put a ladder on it.
Yeah.
Thought that was great. I like that Rick remembered that, Bob tried to tell him back at the church about letting people in and how he complains to Michonne about how the rules keep changing. I thought that was a great line. I like that tweeter. The person who tweeted, I think Glenn, seems to be coming back to the moral compass. And I liked how he struggled with deciding if he should help Aaron or not in the woods there. To me, the episode could have been called Silence instead of The Distance, because they kept drawing comparisons with Woodbury and Terminus and about how they came upon them and they were quiet. And then, of course, that was all to set up the end scene when they come to the gates and you hear the noises of the kids and the people. I thought there was a beautiful, though, that felt a little forced to me in terms of the writing. Mm-hmm. There was a great foreshadowing of that didn't need any exposition, which was when they went to Noah's home. And if you remember, in what happened and what's going on, or his old compound, they approach the gate and there's no noise. Mm-hmm. And they look at each other and there's kind of this recognition of like, that's not a good sign, And of course, then they find out that they're gone. And I think that was a big foreshadowing of this scene here in the end. There was no watch or clock again, but if you notice, Noah's shirt says 1-1. And this is episode 11.
Damn it! I was looking for the entire episode. I saw it too, and it didn't register with me. You're right.
But I don't remember anything in the last week's episode in them, so we've got to go back because there must be something.
Oh man!
Because they're clearly doing it for every episode. So
yeah.
But now they're getting a little trickier with it,
Huh. Wow. Yeah, I totally missed. I saw the shirt too, and I was like, "What's that about?" And then.
And the last good I had was another comment from that movie pilot write-up. And they pointed out, I hadn't caught this, that Rick kind of broke the fourth wall in this episode. And by that meaning kind of out of the context of, I don't know, how would you define breaking the fourth wall?
It's where the actor is basically speaking directly to the audience.
Right. Well, this is kind of a version of that. When Aaron is trying to convince Rick to bring the group to Alexandria, Rick sends the group off for 60 minutes to scout the area. While Rick, Judith, and Aaron are waiting for their return, Rick points out to Aaron he has 43 minutes for the others to return with the news or he will be killed. 43 minutes is coincidentally the exact run time of the episode without ads.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. So those were my goods. What about you?
All right, so my goods were a couple of them echo yours. The callback to the RV, which I thought was cool. In fact, I was actually a little bit annoyed that nobody, even though we had that nice scene with Glenn, knowing where the spare battery was or another battery. There wasn't any. I was kind of annoyed there wasn't any nostalgia. At first, I was kind of like, there should have been some kind of nostalgic nod, but who all's left from that old crew? It's basically just Carol, Glenn, and Rick, right?
Yeah.
And Rick's already preoccupied, but still, I would have liked at least a moment where maybe Glenn and Carol.
Daryl's back from then too.
Oh right.
Yeah.
So at least something from there. But I liked the RV. You mentioned Aaron, and just for anybody who's not read the comic, we're at what's the series now? 130? I'm a couple issues behind. The
right
comic book series.
No, it's like 138, I think.
Okay, so Aaron was introduced in issue 67. So you got a lot of catching up to do, but because he's from quick do the math, 70 issues ago. But I like the actor playing him. I liked, and I'll get into my problems with the episode, but even despite my problems, I liked I liked this guy. I liked him a lot. Yeah. In fact, I liked him on the same kind of level that I liked who was the guy who was the charismatic leader of Terminus.
Oh, Gareth.
Yes. Same kind of, even though Gareth I liked because there was just like there was just a lethality that just kind of flowed under the surface of him. Aaron is just a guy that you want to like, and we've talked about how a central figure he plays in the comic book, and such a great character there. I was reading somebody's tweets, and I can't disagree with this. There was more emotion in his kissing Eric than we've ever seen.
The whole scene where he greets him and they have the conversation. Yeah. More
emotion between two gay characters than we've ever seen between Glenn and Maggie, and it's totally true. I think Abby brings it up in his post, which we'll read at the end, where I guess I hadn't seen this, but apparently the internet kind of blew up as it's wont to do. And with stuff like this, just trolls about
haters,
which and there are and look, I'd be the first to throw a show under the bus. I do it with comic books and books and movies where you kind of just throw it out there, the gay, the homosexual connection, just to kind of throw it out there, whether it's for shock value or just for. This was just a genuine moment between two people, right? And
I totally agree.
So I had no problem with it, and I thought it was.
And if you contrast this gay sequence with or introduction of this gay character with the introduction of Tara, I don't think that was handled nearly as well.
Not nearly as well.
And I think to exactly your point you're making, I felt that was somewhat forced.
Yep.
And the relationship she starts in that RV camp they have or whatever with that other woman, it felt just kind of like we're doing this because we want to be, we want to have diversity.
Right.
This didn't feel that way.
Right.
This felt totally sincere. This was a believable guy and it's believable relationship, and I was on board from the beginning. So right. Yeah, I agree with you completely.
The zombie fight in the woods was just great. Again, I think this is the second time this has been. We had a similar sequence once along somewhere, maybe back at the prison, where you and I talked about the movie Equilibrium with and this reminded me of that. The muzzle flashes lighting up the cornfield, I guess it was, as with each shot. That was very cool, and it was tense too, and it was funny because when their car goes through all the zombies and it just gets smeared with zombie goo, and it's just that was a real horror kind of almost a Roger Corman, Stephen King kind of thing. That scene,
George Romero
made
right.
even more eerie by the red lights on, and as they're running into the cornfield, you got that eerie red light lighting up the area. So I thought that scene was very cool, and I got to go with props to Michonne as being the stepping up as the leader in this. I think a lot of times people watching the show think, and for a while I think it's valid that Rick's clearly the leader here and Daryl's kind of his second in command. Michonne really stepped up in this episode, and she's done it for the past couple weeks, slowly over the past couple weeks, but this one especially, where she's just, really just, and it's not usurping authority. It's not being barging in, but just, she's kind of being the voice of reason, and what I like also is the level of respect that Rick has for her, because notice that, he gives a little pushback, but then he basically acquiesces to her, which he's done before in recent episodes. So there's a real great checks and balances between these two characters leading this group that I really like. I really like the leadership dynamic here.
Totally agree with you. I think that Michonne, I'll talk a lot more about it too, because it's part of my ugly, but she seems more than any other character to have found balance in her character.
Yes.
She has been on the dark side. She's been where Rick is now. When she was walking around with, two zombies, hooked to chains and around to her belt, and as she said, well, again, I'll talk about it in a minute, but yeah, so she, I totally agree that she's kind of come through that heart of darkness and found, how to balance this whole thing. And part of that is her not letting go of hope. When she says around the campfire episode, Daryl, when Rick says we're the Walking Dead or whatever, and Rick says we're not them, or Daryl says we're not them, she's like, this isn't the world.
Right.
Remember, she said, this isn't the world. She's, she's still got a little bit of hope, which allows her to keep that balance, I think, to some degree.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, I agree with you totally.
All right. So what'd you have for bads?
I didn't like that there was like no decent lines or roles for any of the rest of the group.
That's true.
I mean, we haven't heard from Carol since Consumed. I think twice we've heard a line from her.
Right.
Consumed when her and Daryl went into Atlanta to try and find Beth. And, we get Abraham and his crew. I complained last week about the fact that we only see them interact with each other, and that's very limited. We haven't had anything from Eugene except for when he's sitting around that eating the dog, or just before the dog meat, scene, he says, "Oh, this can't get any worse," or whatever.
Right.
So I just, I understand that it's hard when you've got a huge group of people like this to get an effective story that, also brings in a lot of people, but it does, it did bum me out a little bit. I didn't buy the whole Rosita Abraham relationship fix. It felt wicked rushed to me. They deserve better than that. I assume the writers wanted to show us them patching up before they get to Alexandria, after Abraham's mental breakdown, but I just think that it was just wicked rushed and didn't feel.
You didn't think just by seeing the phallic symbol of the George Washington Monument was what brought them back together?
I know. You know what? That actually threw me, because when she turned to him and she said, "Down boy," right?
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, wait a minute, that's not at all what I saw happening here.
I know.
Holy cow.
Exactly.
So I don't know. That was kind of weird. I didn't care for that at all. Since you brought up the monument thing, that I understand there's a financial issue, and I understand that they do a lot of special effects every episode, so they have to control expenses and everything else. But the sequence in the books when they finally decide to go to Alexandria, and they go through this gauntlet to get there through DC.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember, through the Capitol?
Yep.
And that was one of the best sequences in the book, in terms of trying to get from A to B, if you ask me. And some of the best art. There was a double page spread of the Capitol at one point with the van flying through, and I think Aaron and his buddy are on a 3-wheeler or 4-wheeler or something. It was awesome, and I was really looking forward to that. And all we got was the Washington Monument way off in the background.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's lame. That's lame. You know what I mean? They should have taken a week, gone to DC, shot a couple of things, or something. I don't know. I mean, plus the geography didn't change. I still felt like we were in Georgia. You know what I mean? So that kind of bummed me out a little bit. I was not buying the makeshift town alleyway where the RV is hiding. Where the hell did that come from?
Right.
They're out in the woods. And granted, there was a water tower, so there might be some sort of a town thing, but that was all somewhere downtown, some big town, Right. Didn't buy that. Plus the flare shot. How would they have tracked that flare shot that's up in the air for just a minute or two to there?
Right.
Right, from wherever they were in the woods.
But and the thing is that and from the car wasn't that much far ahead of the RV. Now, we know the car moves faster than the RV. So how does the flare come from ahead of them? Was.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Yeah, you're right. I don't know. It was weird. I thought it was kind of rushed and it didn't feel great. I didn't care for the woods fight scene that much. It served an important purpose. It was great tension. I love the flare shot. Obviously, it allowed there for a moment for Glenn to get separated, so that he would have to make that decision about whether to save Aaron or not. I saw the importance of the sequence. Plus, they needed to get some zombie killing in. But to me, it just felt, again, kind of like staged and forced. I loved the car sequence. I loved them crashing through the zombies, not being able to see where they're going, all of that, and I thought that was really cool. But I wasn't all that happy with the woods thing. It just seemed kind of I don't know, haphazard and spastic. I think that was it for my bads. Did you do your bad? What was your bads?
Okay, so settle in, because this is going to take a while.
All right, hold on. Let me get comfortable. All right, you go.
Go. So, okay. Man, where do I start? Okay, so I had problems with a lot of the episode. Go through my notes here and just kind of start at the beginning, work my way through. I thought that okay, so first of all, if you're Aaron and you come to these people, and I get the whole message about Aaron. Okay, no, I'm gonna back up. For me, this episode should have been titled "It's a Trap," but it should be said with Admiral Akbar saying it, when he's like, "It's a trap," because this whole episode was, every single thing was, it's a trap. It's a trap. And as soon as they fed out, like one link of chain for you to go, oh yeah, Aaron's a good guy, they would immediately yank it back, like, nope, it's a trap. And they did that the entire episode. So it just got to the point where you're just like, okay, I'm not.
Like I don't an emotional yo-yo.
Yeah, they did it too often. If you're Aaron and you come to these people, you've been tracking them, right? And you've been watching them. You figured out their habits and stuff. And you sit here. First of all, Aaron was too cryptic all the time about everything. Dude, if you really want to show that you're a good guy, you just come out and go, whoa, hold on a second. Here's the deal. I got a car and an RV out back over there. There's only one other guy who's out here with me. Like, you don't sit there and play this BS game about, hey, if I tell you there's one, or I tell you 8 or 400, you're not going to believe me anyway.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going. The applesauce thing. Look, I understand if you can. I don't give a crap if you're gluten intolerant. When it's basically you want to show trust, the guy sticks it in front of you.
Biters fans, that was a dig at his co-host.
Well, it wasn't actually, but if you want to make it about you.
If it was a dig at me, it would have been dairy and gluten. Hashtag getting old.
I mean, again, you just don't sit there and go, oh, I hate applesauce. I won't. No, you just go, okay, I'll eat it and prove that there's nothing going on. So
yeah, plus the whole comment about my mom used to force me to eat it to make me like a man. First of all, that was the only part that felt, again, forced, gay commentary.
Exactly.
And then second of all, who feeds their kid applesauce to make them more manly?
Exactly.
Maybe steak, potato,
right. Yeah.
Applesauce. That's baby food.
Like spinach, sure, I get it. Applesauce, yeah. So
Danish.
So yes, so that kind of annoyed me. We get to the car and it's like, again, it was, oh, like you mentioned, Michonne. She looks at it. Oh, this place that you can see the look on her face, like, oh, this would be an awesome place to wait. Where are the people? And suddenly it's like, oh, it's a trap. When they, we've talked about how the group has acted like such a good group of survivors, and they're actually really street smart and whatever. Dude shows up in a car. You don't check out the entire car. So, like, suddenly finding the parabolic microphone, like, oh, my God, you've been listening to us? Dude, you didn't case the car before you got in it?
No, that's a good point.
So it just like I said, the entire episode was just one mind screw after another, almost like a choose your own adventure book, and I got tired of it.
I think they were trying to make the audience almost experience themselves the level of paranoia that Rick was experiencing.
But and at some point, if you're Aaron,
but I agree with you. I'm not sure it was working.
And if you're Aaron and you come into a group like this, okay, and I get the whole thing, like, hey, one of the things that he said that I really liked was it wasn't so much that it's about people, and that people are a commodity that his community can use, but you guys are survivors. We've been watching you guys. You guys have been going through all this stuff, and this part was kind of funny, where he's like, and you haven't turned on each other. Right. Dude, where were you a couple seasons ago with Shane and, putting Carol out in the cold?
Well, that would be funny if he's been watching since then.
Yeah. So when he said that, like, I totally get it. Like, you want survivors who are basically alpha predators themselves. You want them on your side in your community. It makes you stronger. I thought that was a great line, and I'm on board. But at some point, when someone comes in and lays a haymaker on you and knocks you out, basically is like, if my people don't come back, I'm going to put a knife in the back of your skull. There's got to come a point where you just got to go, look, peace out. I tried. Y'all are nuts, and I'm going back home. But that has been an issue.
They did do that, but they held it off maybe too far. To your point, Yeah. I mean, at the end, he kicks the door open. He's like, "This is over. We're done. I'm out of here."
But it's also
poor Michonne goes flying in the ditch.
Yeah,
that was pretty funny.
But it's one of the problems I've always had with this show, and I think I've had with the comic as well, which is there's always this, when you come across a survivor, someone who shows that they're able, no, you have to join us. You have to join our group, and there's, you have to assimilate this person into your group. Why? Well, if a person just goes, no, thanks, gonna go on my own, okay, then you're on your own. Like, why not just let them go? So this problem has always been there, but I like I said, I just don't see how Aaron just wouldn't have been, I'm out of here. I'm reporting back that you guys are lunatics. I don't like what's been going on with Abraham of late. I don't like, look, I get that he may be disillusioned and disappointed in himself for trusting Eugene, and it turns out all to be a lie. And trust me, if I'm going to, from last episode, if I'm going to go scrounging around and I'm going to find a little bit of booze, yeah, I might sip from the bottle for a little bit. I mean, what the hell else are you going to do? But he's also supposed to be a military guy, right? So two things. One, when they bring Aaron into the barn, who's the first person who goes running out to go check the perimeter? Daryl. Why isn't Abraham with them? Like, Abraham's a military guy. That should be the first thing. I found it laughable when five of them go out to go find the cars. It's Maggie and Glenn and Michonne and Rosita and Abraham. Yeah. Y'all are walking straight down this road in a cluster of five. So if there are bad guys out there and they've got guns, and then you got I thought it was even funnier was Glenn being kind of cowboy, telling everybody, okay, eyes open, you see someone, shoot them. Okay, A, it's kind of obvious, and B, what? You guys are just, all it's going to take is like 2 rounds, and I take everybody out. So, right. Again, it was just not intelligent on their part. Okay, there's been this doubt about Aaron, okay? So we don't know if we should trust Aaron. Do we trust him? Do we not trust him? The whole dichotomy between Rick doesn't trust him, Michonne does, and then it flip-flops when they're in the car because we can't see people in the Kodaks, and then when they're out in the cornfields fighting the zombies, he proves his worth, and there's still this push and pull. But then when they get to the pop-up sanctuary, And he's like, "Where's Eric?" And he goes,
"Pop-up sanctuary." It's true.
And he goes running into Eric. Why wasn't somebody with him? Like, why wasn't somebody going? Because
I think Rick's is standing in that doorway watching.
But he comes at the end. You see him at the end when he's like,
I don't know. Maybe I was under the impression he was standing there in the shadows the whole time. When not.
It's just everybody was just kind of standing forward. Eric was in the back room, and Aaron goes running off to him. Okay, if you really suspect this guy, do you want two possible terrorists having a moment together to trade plans and stuff? So again, just not intelligent. The perimeter. Oh. And again, I think this is foreshadowing of the coming bad thing that's going to happen. Is doesn't Aaron tell them when he shows the picture of the 12-foot by 8-foot steel that God himself couldn't get into? Doesn't he say there's like no noise that can come out? Nothing to draw walkers.
I don't remember that. I just remember him saying that like it would take. There's nothing, something about like there's nothing made that can get through that now, or nothing that's. I think that was a tip of the hat to the tank,
but
because they use the tank at the prison.
But when the car when they show up outside the gates, and there's that nice moment, you hear the children playing and stuff. Dude, all that is just wind chimes for the walkers, to bring them.
It's true.
It's
true.
Like
they had like no snipers. They had no.
Where's
lookouts.
The greeting party? Where's the people to see them? Yeah. So, I get what they were trying to do with this episode, but it just failed for me.
Okay.
So those are all my bads.
I want to follow up on you were talking about Abraham and your unhappiness with how he's been handled lately. I wanted to echo that. I totally agree with you. I'm kind of saying about how everybody seems to be kind of being left behind a little bit for the main characters for them to work on script wise. But I guess you're pointing out how he's just making stupid decisions and stuff. But I think that there's an inherent problem that has been. Well, I don't want to say problem. For readers of the book, there's been a major change in cast that has caused, I think, a couple of ripples that have been negative, in my opinion, with regards to cast members. And Abraham's one of them. Tyrese is the other. And the issue is Daryl. The introduction of Daryl and the development of Daryl's relationship with Rick has completely undermined the flow in the comic story of that they had for a while, which was first you had Shane and Rick. They were buddies. They were a team. They backed each other up. They support each other. They were brothers in arms. And then of course Shane goes bad, and that whole thing goes down. Tyrese gets introduced, and over a period of time, he builds up Rick's confidence. He becomes, his right-hand guy. And, between the two of them, nothing can stop that group. You know what I mean? And then Tyrese gets killed by the governor. And at that time, Abraham gets introduced. And then, they're at odds with each other. But that ends up being chemistry for them to build a friendship that becomes incredibly, much like Tyrese or Shane initially, and that's his new brother, and these characters. Tyrese didn't have the ability to bond with him like that because that was already Daryl's role, and Abraham, same thing. So they're these fish that are kind of out of water. They introduce them because they're in the book, but they're not able to develop them the way they did in the book. Right. And I think that's what's causing that, because I totally agree. I think, by this point in the book, Abraham is like, he and Rick are like inseparable. They're they're teams. They're brothers in arms, and it's just not the case here at all. But so good. What about your ugly?
So my ugly is a good ugly, and it's finding Alexandria. I mean, I think this is a great. It's still being, it's being held out that it's a that it's still a trap. It's a trap. But like fans of the comic book, we've been knowing that this is out there. We've been waiting for this moment. So that I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm really looking forward to, even though I like, conflict and riling stuff up, I'm really looking forward to these guys getting settled into an area and, kind of getting their feet underneath them before we whip it out, whip the carpet out from underneath them again. Which,
I agree.
Is pretty much going to be the 90-minute finale. But I'd like to get these, let them lower their guard, and I don't know if I'm looking forward to seeing Farmer Rick again, but kind of let's establish a new normal here, and
well, if they follow the book at all, you're not going to get to see, you won't see Farmer Rick again, but you'll see Policeman Rick again.
Right.
Right. So no, I agree with you. I think it's cool. I think that they did a great job of of creating a flow to the series where you've got these periods of life in the wild, and then an attempt to establish a camp or settlement or rebuild the world, and then that collapses and they're back in the wild again. And after it's been almost a full season, right, since the prison.
Yeah.
So maybe more. And it's time. I agree. It's time. And it also, that sets up a scenario where, there becomes dramatic tension because they start to get soft or start to get lax or start to feel like things are better. And then, to your point, the rug can get ripped out.
Okay. So you're ugly.
My ugly is also good. We've kind of talked about it a little bit, so I'll have to kind of edit as I go through here. But basically, my ugly is the whole is Michonne. The ugly good is Michonne and the whole Rick and Michonne relationship. I think it was definitely the highlight of the episode. Her standing up to Rick, like you pointed out. I think we talked earlier about the fact that I think she's got she's reached a point of balance in this world, and I just really liked how without like if I was trying to think if Andrea was still with the group and she had made these because she kind of did make these statements, these kinds of confrontations with Rick when the governor was trying to weasel his way into the prison. You remember?
Right. Yep.
And it just fell flat, and it just seemed like sabotage, and it seemed like backstabbing, and it just wasn't handled right. From not so much from the writing point of view, but from like the character in the show. In contrast, I mean, she's not trying to step on Rick. She's just trying to help him, make a good decision and to see through the blind rage and survivalism that he's kind of stuck in right now. I thought what was interesting, I went back and pulled the page from the comic where she actually, I didn't realize, but her speech is almost exactly verbatim.
Oh, really?
From the comic, awesome. Yeah. It's 3 panels, which is a lot of words in 3 panels, but that's typical of Kirkman. You can go a book with no words, and then you have a book with every panel's got a dictionary in it. But she starts out, no F that. I'm sorry, but I'm going with him. He's got a group of nearly 40 people in a walled-in neighborhood, and he's inviting us into it. And from what I can gather, all he asks in return is that we pull our own weight, contribute to the community, help in whatever way we can. What is there to even think about? I know that you're skeptical, but think about, she's talking to Rick, but think about it. A community like that would need people to maintain it. It's like he says, he needs us as much as we need him. Rick, I get it. You don't want to risk another Woodbury. I remember the governor. Trust me. This man is nothing like him. I can tell. If we don't do this, if we let this pass us by, what are we doing here? What is our purpose? Do we just continue on being miserable, near starved, and just desperate? Is that our goal? I thought the whole point of this was to find something like this, something exactly like what Aaron is offering us, which is essentially what she was kind of saying in the show.
Right.
And, I thought that was pretty cool how they were calling that back. She's really bringing Rick back from the edge. And again, I think that's because she knows what it's like to be there. she understands that, and maybe that was part of the difference with Andrea, but
the thing is that Michonne is she's such a calmer. Andrea was too emotional. So even though she was the counterparty to Rick, she had the same hostility and what's the word I'm looking for? Emotion. She basically had the same tenor that he did. Michonne she's taking the other side of the coin, but she's also calmer and just more in control. And it's almost like she's the 50,000-foot view and Rick is, whereas Andrea, she was on the same altitude. She was on the same plane as Rick.
But you see, I attribute that to the fact that Andrea couldn't empathize with the paranoia or the survivalism in Rick's mind. And
I agree.
Michonne can.
Yeah.
Michonne knows exactly where Rick is, and she completely understands him and understands what he's thinking, and she's behind him 100% on it when they're in a threatened situation. Mm-hmm. But she understands that it can blind you to see things clearly. And to your point, she's got the 50-yard up view. Her confrontation with Glenn was great too. Mm-hmm. I loved that because it was when they're searching for the cars, because she's basically saying to him, because he's like, like you said, he's like, oh, come on, we're gonna shoot. If you see somebody, shoot him. And she's like, dude, don't follow Rick blindly. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Use your own moral compass and judgment. You know what I mean? I'm throwing my own words in there, but basically she's saying, dude, think about what you're saying. You're just saying what you think he would tell you to say, or tell you to do. But use your own judgment here. We're out in the middle of the road. We don't know these people. You don't just shoot somebody you see. You know what I mean? I thought that was cool.
Let me pause you right there for a second.
Sure.
Because there's, we're talking about characters and how they're just not quite, outside of a couple, they're not quite getting characters right. One of them is Glenn. Glenn seems to be, especially for the past couple episodes, just seems to be all over the place. He's, couple episodes ago, he was the badass and, kill them all kind of thing. And then the next episode, he was the gentle type. Now he's back to being the badass, but yet at the end of the episode, he turns into the gentle type again. It's like, it almost seems like that scene when they're walking down the road, to me, it was kind of like, we need somebody to say this line. Who should say it? We're going to have Glenn say it. Well, yeah. But that doesn't, it doesn't work. So, I just wanted to put that in there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think where they screwed it up is the one dialogue between Rick and him in the episode What's Happened and What's Going On, when they have that discussion and he says, I would have killed that guy now, in Terminus that I before told you to save. That to me, was where they kind of screwed up, because that put Glenn in a different world, and then the next in a different place mentally, and then the following week, boom, he's back to being moral compass. Love the tender moment with Michonne, and she puts her hands on Rick and says, "Are you ready?" I just think that the bonding between the two of them, they've been together so long and have been through so much, and to think, Rick didn't even want to take her in the prison.
Right.
He totally distrusted her for a long time. He distrusted her. What an amazing character evolution for both of them. I agree. Sometimes, I think they completely missed the ball with Tyrese. I think they're completely missing the ball with Abraham, but sometimes they get it right. Carol, what a fantastic character evolution that character has. And I think Michonne is another one that's just, when you compare the character now to the character when we were introduced, huge growth, huge change, and that's what for me makes for powerful television. I loved her line to him about when he says it's too dangerous, and she brings him back down to earth again. Passing up a place where we can live, where Judith can live.
Right.
That's dangerous. Like, dude, you got to get out of this paranoia. This survivalist mentality. You got a baby. You know what I mean? This is no way to raise a baby. So
I love that cool. I love that she played the Judith card.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that he tells Michonne that, he doesn't know what, if anything, could convince him to bring his family inside another community. And of course, and you're thinking to yourself, yeah, I mean, what, if this guy said all these things that he said and that hasn't done it, well, and that's basically what he says. He says, then what's going to do it? I don't know if there's anything that could do it.
Right.
And of course, that was wonderful setup for when he hears the kids and the children playing in the background on the other side of the fence, and this realization that there is one thing, and that's, the idea of a community like what used to be, so I thought that was really cool.
I want to see Rick when they get into Alexandria and they meet everybody and they're like, oh, so it's so great having you guys. We've heard so much about you. Aaron and Eric, they've been following you for a while, and what do you think? What could you bring to our community? I want the first thing that Rick say is, okay, first of all, shut them kids up. You're going to bring every zombie within.
Put sniper towers all over, and we got to find a tank and bring that in here.
Exactly.
Maybe 2. So my ugly was just their fantastic character building of the two of them and the relationship between the two of them, and her strength to stand up and help him see the right way and see through his rage. I would love to see them connect and become romantically involved.
I've thought about that. What if we're kind of going in that direction? Because when she reaches over and she takes his, and it wasn't a flirtatious or anything behind it. It was just one friend to another. But I see that, and sometimes I see their interaction. I'm like, I'd kind of like to see that.
Yeah, I agree. That for me, whenever Carol and Daryl have been together, I've gotten a totally different vibe than romantic. And this one was neutral. This was kind of like it could go either way.
Exactly. Yeah.
I saw, and I thought that was cool because I kind of thought that they might have Sasha and him, because Sasha's kind of filling the Andrea role with the sharpshooter and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I think maybe Michonne, but maybe not. Maybe not. They don't seem. I think it's one lacking element other than Maggie and Glenn, and Rosita and Abraham, which has been pretty nominal at all, minimal at all. There hasn't been any relationships, any romantic relationships, I think that's in the comic there was tons of them.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and all sorts of stuff going on. But anyway, so I got a couple crazy predictions of the week. You want to make any predictions?
I don't
I
have
didn't prep
any.
you for this. No. So I wonder if Abraham and Sasha are going to hook up, and that's going to be what splits him and Rosita. Of course, in the book we know that I forget who it is. It's somebody in the Alexandria community.
Oh,
Again,
yeah.
spoilers for people who didn't read the books. But that ends up breaking them up. And I'm wondering if it's going to be Sasha because of the whole fact that kind of like, again, it seems like we're getting a lot of the foreshadowing stuff, but when she cut him and then he made, the comment to her about you're among friends and there was just, and you're not my friend,
Yep.
Yeah, it was kind of like, and then she's looking at him afterwards in the barn when he's drinking. And I'm wondering if there isn't going to be something that's going to pull them together and in later episodes. As we talked about at the top, I'm going to predict that Judith is going to live and grow up and end up using that pistol. I got another one, I think. I said this before, and you were like, no, poo-poo. I think Morgan's going to maybe turn out to be the TV version of Ezekiel.
Okay.
And I
think
he is heading the same way as them because he's trying to follow them.
Yep.
But I think he's going to run into one of the other communities, and maybe it'll be the kingdom, and that he'll end up ruling that place or becoming the leader of that place. Now I don't know about the whole cat, the tiger thing and everything else, but my guess is they won't go there. But I don't know. Maybe not the kingdom. Maybe it'll be one of the other communities, but. They're going to have to come up with an interesting way to introduce him. They've made his little intros and where, we haven't seen anything since the last half of the season. the finale, I think, right? Or did we see him at the beginning of this season?
We saw him after they burned Terminus, and because remember, you saw the symbols on the trees. That was the last time we saw him.
He picked up the map, so that's the last. Right, that's the last time we've seen him. So, I think they're gonna. It would be kind of anticlimactic to do all of this kind of hinting with him, and then have him just show up at at Alexandria. Knock knock, I'm here.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would find that anticlimactic, but I'm also going to predict right now that, and these predictions, I'm never right. Except for the red hatchet. That was the only thing I was ever right on. But Abraham will die at the end of a bat and not an arrow. That's what I think.
Abraham and not Glenn, huh?
Yeah, well, I think Glenn may go down, but I don't think it's going to be the way. I think they're making it too. We talked about this before, and I think that they're going to have to do something wild with Abraham, because that was pretty wild in the book. But they won't want to do the exact same thing because they won't want people to, suspect it coming. And
right.
I think that's what's going to go. So those are my crazy predictions. Zombie kill of the week.
Oh, it's got to be Flare to the head. Yeah, Flare head.
Flare boy. Flare head. Although in second place is the road bash with the car. That was pretty awesome. Piling through all that. I love that they gave that long shot, that high shot, that bird's eye view, and they're just tearing through all those zombies. That was cool.
When they couldn't start the car, and again, just typical horror trope. It's like, oh, the car's dead, can't get it started, and then Michonne's like pulling body parts out of the radiator.
That was gross, man. She's pulling arms and legs out of that grill. That was awesome. Character of the week?
I got to go with Michonne.
Yeah, amen. I'm on board with that too.
All right.
So that's about that. We got some letters we want to read.
All right. Start off with we got Thomas Reese. He wrote in and said, first off, I want to say I love the show. I just started listening a few weeks back, but I'm hooked. Keep up the good work. He says, overall, I must say, I feel these last few episodes have been my favorite of the entire series. It seems the creators of the show have really developed their craft, and their vision of the show has blossomed into something more epic. The acting is better, special effects are amazing, and the camera work is masterful. It feels like an entirely different show.
I agree.
He gives The Distance 4 headshots. He thought it was a strong episode and a good plot transition to pick up the pace of the second half. His goods, he liked the Dale callback with the... He said the Dale callback with the RV and Glenn almost made me cry. He liked the zombie road rage massacre and the strobe light trick in the cornfield. The father-mother conflict between Rick and Michonne and the sound of the children playing at the gates of Alexandria. His bad, Rick's a dick. I understand he's being protective of the group, but give your baby some effing applesauce. His ugly, Rick's knockout was ugly. It felt like he was losing control of the situation during his dialogue with Aaron, and in an attempt to slow things down a bit, he knocked his ass out. Go through his bag. Let's see who this guy really is. So
I agree. And I mean, I told you what the one theory was, and it's kind of interesting, but it didn't come across that way. It felt more like just what Thomas is saying. But the other thing that bugs me a little bit is the reality of if you punch somebody in the face like that. I mean, cold cock. You could most likely break their jaw.
Yeah.
What do you do with a broken jaw in the zombie apocalypse? You die, basically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, to me, that just is like, it's hard, it's like old Westerns or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, interrupt. Go ahead.
Let's see. The next one I got is...
Wait a minute, you had the zombie kill of the week.
Thomas?
Yeah, he had a zombie kill of the week, the flare gun.
Oh, yeah.
And his character of the week was Michonne.
Let's see. Gary.
So then we got Leslie Cox. I'm going to read.
Okay.
The Distance, another good episode for me. I loved it. There were lots of tension. Will they, won't they? I liked the action, the thoughtful discussion, the shades of opinion. Michonne with her optimistic attitude contrasting with Rick's understandable paranoia. I also wondered whether they weren't doing a bit of shipping with Rick and Michonne. So we're not the only ones thinking that. That would be a great big yes from me on that one. I give it 4.5 headshots. Well, now you're giving what 4.5 headshots? Their relationship or the episode? 4.5 headshots. My good was Rick's eyes at the end, where they changed from tension and suspicion to hope when he heard the children playing inside the gates. That was great. The bad was Aaron and his refusal to eat the applesauce. Eat the stuff, for goodness sakes. You know why he wants you to do it, but I think that was the show adding to the audience's tension about whether to trust Aaron or not. Yep, totally agree. The ugly was a good ugly with the reference to poor Dale and Glenn and the batteries. That was a nice callback to the earlier episodes and reintroduced the early Glenn character, who was so resourceful and clever. My character of the week was Glenn. As I said, we're beginning to get Glenn back. I loved his character at the beginning of the show, and I think he's been overlooked in later episodes. The thing that concerns me about that is that when they begin to build a character up, they end up killing them off. Hope they don't. Kill of the week has got to be the zombie car smashing scene. That was very gory. Loved it. Thanks, Leslie.
All right. Our friend Gary Dombrowski said, Rick looks to be running off the rails in this episode. While everyone else is willing to accept that Aaron's intentions are good, Rick's reservations are understandable. He's the only one in the group with a family. Given what they've been through, Aaron is lucky that the worst that happened to him was not getting knocked out. Michonne seems to be the most level-headed person in the group. Because he's not trusting of Aaron, this is Gary's talking to your point. Rick basically endangers the group. Adjusts their route to travel to Alexandria. It's a good thing he doesn't work for AAA.
That's a great line.
Great effects work on Rick turning that Walker's head into a jack-o'-lantern. Even though Rick and Michonne's characters were 100% safe, that night scene was a nail-biter. Imagine if Glenn had been bitten. Gary wonders, I wonder what Rick's reasons for not wanting... This is actually funny. I wonder what Rick's reasons for not wanting Aaron and his partner Eric to be in the same room together were. They were unarmed, and one had a broken ankle. Was he afraid they would start redecorating the room in the middle of the night? I can just hear Aaron and Eric, we brought swatches. I really like the tip of the hat to Dale when Glenn was looking at disabled RV. One thing that jumped out was Rick needing a moment before entering Alexandria. I'm sure at some point we'll see that pistol he buried. How the group will adjust to being in what is a normal community, as you'll probably find in the zombie apocalypse. All in all, a good episode. He gave it 3.5 headshots.
Cool. Why don't you read Abby's, because I just remembered we've also got one from Laura that I printed out. That was an email.
All right.
So I'll read that, and I'll read Diane's. So you read Abby's.
I got to read the bottom of Abby's first, because he says, thank you for continuing to read aloud my reviews, even though some are long. I get it. You guys are old and don't want to read stuff. All right.
It's not that we don't want to. It's that we can't. We fall asleep. We stumble.
All right. So he gives it 2.5 noggin shots. The distance,
wow.
Meh, etc. First and foremost, I wanted to address my opinion of the elephant in the room. And then he talks about it's 2015. People get over it. I'm not on Twitter, and rightfully so, but I heard the backlash on the Aaron and Eric scene. His good... he says what we said, too, that I saw more passion and love between Aaron and Eric in one scene than I've ever seen between Glenn and Maggie. He liked the RV callback. And like I said, you can't say Dale's name, though.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
Michonne taking leadership he liked. And like you said, here I was thinking Daryl had second command. I guess not. Abe and Rosie make up. When Rick asks you a question, you answer it. His bad, the force-fed applesauce, the wasted flare gun. Noah's still alive? I wonder what he meant here. Abe is so strong. Lots of O's and lots of G's. I wonder, Abby, I'm not sure what you were getting at there. And then he says, so an almost brand newish Mustang can't run over a bunch of Zeds, but an old beat-up caddy-looking piece of junk can.
It's an Eldorado, by the way.
He had a good ugly. I've been hearing you guys talk about this Alexandria Free Zone since I joined up.
Hold on. He's referring back to the Mustang. I take it when they went to the animal university, to the veterinarian university, I think. And the fact that got jammed up on the zombies.
He's been hearing about Alexandria Free Zone since I joined up. I'm finally happy I get to see it for myself. Oh, no, wait, just the gate.
That's funny, Abby.
I don't understand why people were surprised by Rick's actions and decisions. The guy has been through hell since day zero of this post-apocalyptic world. Take account of all that he's been through, and you'll see that punching a guy in the face is Rick being nice. The kill of the week was the walker in the tree from last week's episode. Too funny. His character was Aaron. I didn't feel threatened or thought he was the next weekly villain. In fact, I kind of felt sorry for him. Here he goes out of his way to give them water, food, a safe place to live, and he gets punched in the face. Force-fed applesauce. And then the Walking Dead internet community takes grief on him for being gay. He's had a rough day. He said he thought it was a good episode all around. And I'm interested in seeing the ratings for Distance since it went up against the Oscars. And WWE's pay-per-view Fastlane. So, well, I don't know what the pay-per-view numbers were, but like we said at the beginning, held up pretty good against the Oscars. So, all right, what do you got?
All right, Diane Maythorne wrote in, my husband's response, quote, "At least nobody died in this episode." I was really happy to see an uplifting episode for the first time in a really long time. My good, yes, the nod to Dale. I have to agree with that. My bad, Rick is Shane. My ugly, good, the congruence with the comic books. / bad, the fans who bitched about Eric and Aaron kissing. Seriously, people, 21st century, marriage equality in over half of the U.S., including backwater Alaska. You guys also get to smoke pot now, too, if I remember right? Did I hear that? Didn't they just legalize marijuana up there? Started this week? Yeah, in Alaska. Get a grip, she says.
Hold on a second. Did you see any of the backlash? I didn't.
It's funny because I was on Twitter and I was, live tweeting the episode, and no, I didn't see any of that. But I mean, obviously there always is crap, and stuff like that. But no, I didn't see it. So I didn't experience anything like that. At this point, I think it's, such a small vocal minority,
Right.
So I don't pay much attention to it. Let's see. This is from Laura. She says, "Hi, Jeff and Kirk. Happy Monday." That's how far behind we are. I liked this episode. I'm glad that the group is moving towards a goal and possibly a new life rather than endless days of aimless wandering. I give it a solid 4 out of 5 headshots. The good, I really love the new character of Aaron and the actor playing him. He seems honestly kind and sincere without the used car salesman creepiness of Gareth. Loved how all the ladies protectively flanked him after Rick cold cocked him. I thought that was an interesting observation. I hadn't noticed that, but she was right. Yeah. I wonder if their female intuition, like mine, sensed that he really is a good person, though that didn't seem to work for him in Terminus, did it? The reunion scene with Aaron and Eric was one of the most tender and adorable scenes I've watched on the show since the gang reunited back at Terminus. Also loved the joyride through Walker Rush Hour. That's funny. The sedan looked like Carrie White on prom night. That was good, though. The bad, just small nitpicky things. Really, Aaron? Rick has you tied up and had just threatened to stick a knife in the base of your neck. I'd eat the damn applesauce. And it's applesauce. It's not like you're eating dog or worms or pig's feet. Why didn't the wipers work on the car? I don't think they would have been very good at moving that junk anyway. Also, our gang knows that they're being spied on and possibly in danger. When they go to check out Aaron's story, why are they walking down the middle of the road in full view? Which is your point. Yeah. Totally agree. You'd think going stealth through the woods would be the way to go. The ugly. Rick's beard. Honestly, are woodland creatures living in that thing now? I appreciate a bit of facial hair on a man, but that thing is out of control. I look forward to the cast every week, guys. So thank you for all the work that you put into it. Well, thank you, Laura, and thank you, Diane and Leslie and Abby and Thomas and Gary for all your comments on Facebook and writing in. And we love our 5 fans.
You know who has to be, who probably should be character of the week every week, is Judith. Is she not the quietest baby ever?
I think I heard her cry for the first time in this episode, right? When she wanted the damn applesauce. She's like, "Dad!" Basically, if I could translate that cry.
Yeah, and I didn't realize. And so they're feeding her crushed up acorns?
I know. Man, those diapers must be a nightmare. Seriously though, man, that baby would be a mess. That baby would be a mess. It would weigh like close to nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's hard to swallow. So in that sense, it's good that they've gotten to Alexandria, because I don't think that baby could have survived much more on that road.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
So what do we got left? How many we got left?
Well, let's see. The 90-minute finale is going to be.
So we have
March
5 more,
29th.
I think.
5 more, yeah.
Yeah, so 5 more. Wow. Pretty cool. So let's see.
It seems to go fast.
Yeah. I'm wicked behind on my art tribute for this week.
Uh-oh.
So I've started drawing today, but usually I'm done with the drawing by today. So tomorrow I got to draw and ink. I've got the idea. I know what I'm doing, and I think it's going to be pretty cool.
Does it have Abraham in profile and Rosita in profile, close to each other, like almost touching with the Washington Monument, like
right in between
erect
them?
Between
That's
them?
right, erect between them. No, it does not. So what else? Oh, I wanted to mention, I forgot to do it at the top, because most probably anybody listening is asleep by now. But I've mentioned a couple times about the book, the zombie book, The Girl with All the Gifts. And I'm going to mention it again because it's really, really good. It's really, really worth people's time. One of the most unique zombie books I've read in a long time. The point of view of it, the development of the characters, the rationale for the virus or the ink. It's not a virus. It actually is they come up with a fungus based, which is based in real science now, because there's recent discoveries of funguses that have been attacking, that attack ants and take over their brain and force them to do what they want them to do, which is go up top in the forest as opposed to down on the ground where the ants usually are, so that they can then burst out of these things and spread their spores. And it's bizarre, but
pretty gnarly.
Yeah, it is pretty gnarly, and they based the whole science on that, and that was really cool. But it's more than just that. That's just a small part of what's so cool about it. The other reason I wanted to bring it up is that I heard Jason and Karen talk about it as well, and a lot of the people that listen to us are also fans of their show, and they usually recommend good stuff too. So definitely you want to check that book out. Also, I just started watching 12 Monkeys. You should definitely watch that.
It's on my DVR.
Oh my God,
far behind on it.
It was really cool. And I mean, I expected like it was going to take 2 or 3 episodes to get into. And by the end of the first episode, I'm hooked, because I love time travel stuff.
Yeah.
But you gotta go with it a little bit. They're kind of loose and goosey with the time travel, but it's cool. So.
Oh my gosh. I just saw something today. I think it was a Facebook post where someone had put out there's this thing out there that basically you mentioned time travel, and they said that it's this new theory about Titanic that'll blow your mind. Titanic the movie, and it's that Jack Dawson, right, Leonardo DiCaprio's character, is actually a time traveler. And you're just like, what? And you go through and they show all the different slides, and they're like, he stops Rose from jumping off the ship, because if she jumped off the ship, then the Titanic would have had to have gone back, done the search and rescue kind of thing to go save her. They would have missed the iceberg. He mentions taking her to, I don't know, some amusement park, a ride, I guess. I haven't seen Titanic in, a long time. But I guess there's a part there where he mentions taking her to Coney Island and this ride. The ride actually wasn't built until 1917. 5 years after the Titanic goes down. He also mentions the boardwalk or something else about Coney Island. That's not built until 1916. And there were like a couple other things where it's just like he's a time traveler and he caused. And it's just
sounds like just bad writing to me.
Exactly, but it was pretty funny.
Did you ever see that? There's a picture that's been going around for years. It's not a picture; it's a video of a shot from a silent film. These people come into a new opening of some zoo or something, and there's this it's like 1920s or something, and there's people walking by or whatever, and then there's this woman comes walking by, and I swear to God, it looks like perfectly like she's talking on a cell phone.
Oh, wow.
And they're saying, people are, oh, this is time travel, evidence of time travel. See, she's on a cell phone and blah, blah.
Wow.
It's been debunked a bunch of times, but still, when you watch it, you're like, holy cow. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Time travel.
One last thing is I have a copy of the script for the pilot for the.
Oh yeah, that's right. You said you were talking about
for the spin-off of the Walking Dead. So it's not like I've stolen it or anything. It's out there. So but I have a copy of it, and if any of our listeners are interested in reading it, it used to be called Cobalt Blue or Cobalt, I think it was. Now it has another name. It's called Fear the Walking Dead. But if you want a copy of it, email us and I'll give you a copy.
And you got that legitimately online, yeah. And have you read it?
I've read. I'm so far behind on life. I've started reading it, so I don't have anything to discuss, and I really don't know. It's tough to. I always find it hard to talk about a screenplay. Talk about something without really getting into specifics and like talking about it, and I don't want to really spoil it for people. So if you want to read it beforehand, just send me an email and I'll give you a copy.
Hey, that reminds me of something that when Jeff and I went out to San Diego to Comic-Con a couple years back with Z-Girl and Four Tigers, and at that point you were reading the script, the J. Michael Straczynski the J. Michael Straczynski script for World War Z. And you said if they make, and at the time I was like, don't tell me anything. I don't want to know anything because I don't want to be spoiled. And you said, if they make this movie like this, it's going to be great.
Yep.
Now, since then, I have never talked to you about that. I never asked you about that. But what was the differences between that script and the ultimate end movie? Do you remember?
That's a really good question. I should go back and look at it. It was distinctly different, and there were some really dark moments in the Straczynski script. And what happened was Straczynski he wrote the script, and then it went to the studios, and they're like, "Oh no, we've got to make this change and this change." And I think Damon Lindelof came in and
at the end, yeah. Well, that was after they actually filmed it. They brought in Lindelof to redo the ending. But I was always curious about that. I wanted to ask you about that. So at some point in the future, maybe you'll get a chance to refresh your memory on that. I'm curious. Or get me if you have that. I'll take it. I want to read it. Yeah. Because I was talking with Dave, our friend at the comic book store, and
which would be Heroes, Comics, and Cards in Norwalk, Connecticut, by the way.
That's right. Don't miss it. It's the best place for comics in all Fairfield County. Ba-dum-bum. Anyway, Dave better pay us for that. And I enjoyed that movie. I really liked World War Z, but I loved World War Z, the book, and I see them as two completely different works of art.
Absolutely,
completely different works of art, unrelated to each other except in name, but both very good and both highly recommended for me. All right, that's it for me.
I think we've come to an end of another episode. If you liked what you heard here, please leave us some comments and give us ratings on iTunes and other places that you download us. Leave us some comments and write in on our Facebook page. You can catch us on Twitter. Tweet to us at Biters Podcast or at BatmanKM for Kirk or at Jay Marsick for me. Check out one of the other 49 other podcasts that the Southgate Media Group puts out. All great stuff. And
you can also reach us if you want to do email at biterspodcast biterspodcast.gmail, right? No, what is it?
BitersPodcast@gmail.com.
Gmail.com. Thank you. I never email, so
it's past Kirk's bedtime. So, all right, everybody. Thank you for listening to us, and we'll talk at you next week.
Take it easy.